if there's one aspect of life that truly makes me miserable, that makes me, I suppose, disappointed, it is simply the finite nature of it. Um, how short and how limited it truly is. Um, I think if I ever had, I think if I ever got some sort of like, magic lamp or was able to make a wish, one of those wishes, it would not be for like absolute immortality, but it would be pretty damn close. It would be like immortality until I decide to take it away. Um, just on the off chance you get thrown from a ship and you're drowning and you don't want to drown perpetually under a mile of sea for like thousands and millions of years or whatever. Um, with no escape clause, no escape, hatch, anything like that. Basically, that would be probably my first go-to wish. It would be immortality. I suppose I'd throw in like youth. You know, youth. It would be kind of implied, I suppose, with that, right? Keeping your mind and all that stuff. But man, it is the shortness of life that so often angers me, and it's not that I necessarily mind the fact that this whole thing comes to an end. What I mind is that there's not enough time to do things that you truly want to do at a very high level. Um, God, 24 hours a day simply is not enough to do everything that you want to do, at least for me. Um, as much as I love writing, as much as I deeply love it, I could live 100 lifetimes and do 100 different things with each lifetime. I mean, well, maybe not 100 different things, but I would do probably several different things with each lifetime and master that. Learning a new language each time I was reborn. Going out, learning different sports, learning different, hobbies, activities, what have you. Uh, Man, it's so finite, and you're forced to basically choose the very few things that you truly want to do. But even that selection, you only get to maybe take one thing out of that and master it, right? Um, in a world where you have to work 8 hours a day probably to pay the bills, you've got maybe at best, one thing that maybe you could try and master. Like one thing that you could try and potentially be considered someone great at. And even then, the odds are generally stacked against you. um, it's it is annoying and it is depressing how little you can actually do in life, and how sort of finite you have to make it. Um, it's I, I I think I once compared the writing process to like a skill tree, like you would get like in an RPG game, where you basically, if writing is your goal, you need to sink all of your level ups into developing that particular skill tree. You can't be spreading it around. You can't be investing 3 points into writing and then 3 points into basketball, then 3 points into playing billiards or something like that, and then another 3 points into learning how to become a good cook or something like that, right? You have to basically sink all of your points into one or two areas on your skill tree and then max that out, because that's you only have so many skill points you can divide. You can basically divvy out, and you only get the really cool power ups at the end, right? In the video games, the highest level perks always come at the end of these skill trees, where you sink so much into this one tree that you get like this cool power and this cool ability that changes the game forever. And that's often how becoming a master at something tends to be personified. If you become really good at something, that's kind of a good analogy for it. And it sucks if you want to develop a lot of the different aspects of that tree. It sucks. It's awful. And the reason why I'm thinking about this more now is today I considered switching up my gyms. I considered switching up the gym that I was going to, and going to another one. This other gym, it would be probably the best gym, certainly in my state. Um, no question about it. Potentially, maybe one of the best. It definitely, I would make the argument that probably be one of the best in New England. Um, certainly. But the problem, unfortunately, is that it would require about 2 hours of commute time, about an hour each way from my house. So I'd be getting out of work and having to commute for 2 hours and then training as well. By the time I got home in the evening, there would be very little time to do the things that need to get done, right? For me, it's mostly writing. I tend to be writing in the evening here. I can't write as much in the morning. Um, and unfortunately, for those that might be saying, well, you just write in the morning, you train in the morning before work or something like that, and then write in the evening, the problem is that you're kind of robbing both sides of it. You're taking away, getting up early in the morning. What that does, unfortunately, is it does cause me to be pretty fatigued in the evening, so I would not be able to focus on my writing. I've tried to do, I've tried to reconcile this aspect many, many times. Unfortunately, yeah, the earlier you get up, basically, the more maybe that morning session goes well. Evening's not. So either I write in the morning and it's strong, and then my evening, my workouts plateau, or vice versa. I work out in the morning, workouts are strong, my writing plateaus. Um, it's a very annoying thing, and it's unfortunate. And I've tried to find ways to make this work in my head, but right now everything is tethered together so tightly. The writing, my workouts, my chess, my day job, it's so tightly woven as it is. It's linked. I feel like it's linked by this very thin, this thin sort of thread that's kind of just tethering each thing together. That if I was to shift it in any way, I think it would all come apart. And so it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that I have to make kind of the decision to not train there, to um, not go all out at this particular place because I want my time to write. I want my evenings here to write. I want my evenings to be able to enjoy um, my craft and enjoy what I am working on, to be able to focus uninterrupted, to not be rushed, to not be getting home late after work and having to write, or getting up early in the morning when I got the brain fog and the tiredness, and putting up maybe a less, a more subpar prose, right? It's There's a sacrifice here, and unfortunately, the sacrifice is not being able to do all the things that you love. Um, and yeah, a lot of the advice I sometimes give sounds very logically obvious, right? It's like, yeah, no duh, no duh, you can't do everything you love. It's a very childlike thing to expect that you can do everything you love in this life, right? But again, apply that emotionally. Consider that on a more emotional level. How many times, have you wished that you could do that? You could do these things, even though logically you can't do it, just because that's the way life works. You can't. How many times have you wished that you could, even as an adult, even within the past year? How many times have there been things that you want to do but you can't? You have obligations, you have family, you have a job, you have what have you. How many times, have you tried to maybe make these things work for your schedule, and this timing just simply does not work, that you just simply cannot do it? That is what I'm talking about. It's one thing to know these things logically. It is a completely different thing to understand it emotionally, to intuit it emotionally inside of you. Um, and yeah, I mean, that truly is the worst curse for me. The worst, absolute worst curse is that I can't do everything that I love. That there are things in this world that I simply cannot do because there is not enough time to do that and the other things that I love as well.